Derrik, welcome to the Handicap Golf channel, and thank you very much for agreeing to show off your golf simulator setup for us all. It's an amazing setup. I can't wait to get into it and asking you questions.
Amazing.
So first of all, can you please tell everybody whereabouts in the world you live, and how long have you owned a golf simulator?
Yeah, so I'm from Ohio in the U.S. I've had 4 different levels of simulators. The first one, which was kind of like, I don't know if I'd call it a full simulator or not. The second one, you kind of could call it one, but it was still, the third one was still very dangerous. And then this was the 4th one. So we're on number 4 now, and this one's actually one that I would ever show to anybody.
This is your final one that you're proud of?
Yeah, there will be no more. It's not happening.
What made you get into simulator golf then?
Okay, so we're going to go back like 20 years to commercials for OptiShot. It's probably been 20 years or more. It might be longer than that now. But I remember seeing commercials for OptiShot thinking that was the coolest thing ever. That was back in the day when, like, you didn't know anybody that had a golf simulator. It didn't exist. That wasn't, I mean, there was like commercial places that had them, but it wasn't like, some guy you knew down the road that had one. So I remember seeing that when I was like 14 or 15, and I was thinking, man, I want one of these one day. And I like the idea of just staying at home. I don't like going places with people. I'm perfectly happy staying here and not driving to the golf course and spending 4 or 5 hours, coming back and then I'd rather just be here, take 45 minutes, play 18 holes, and be back in the house with the wife and the kids. And
I would like to ask you, which launch monitor are you using currently?
Currently is the QED. Now, I had a SkyTrack for 3 years, and I thought, I'll try, maybe a Mevo would be good. So I was like, well, maybe I'll move up to a Mevo just so I can have one, because I was wanting something different, something newer. And this would have been about a year ago that I had a Mevo. And then that lasted like 2 weeks because I have an HVAC system. You can probably see a little light somewhere up, I don't know where I'm at, but that way, up in that corner, there's a little light. That's the HVAC system in here, which is directly above the screen. So if that's on, the Mevo just hits 65-yard putts continuously without touching anything. So basically, there's too much interference in here for a Mevo Plus. So I went to I got a Whiz Eye. I was going to try a Whiz Eye. I thought, well, maybe I'll move up to a Whiz Eye because that's still cheaper than a QED. So I got a Whiz Eye. And then I got spoiled with like instant feedback of like hitting a ball and watching it fly on the screen. Like what you don't get with a SkyTrack, how you have that delay. So then I was spoiled with that. So then I was like, well, the numbers on the Whiz Eye is good for playing, but it's like if you're looking for numbers, it's not what it's for. And I do like numbers. I don't know why it matters with me, but anyway, I like to see certain things and look at the numbers. And so I was like, well, I got to move up to something else because this ain't going to work. But I like the idea of having a ceiling mount system where it wasn't on the floor, where nobody was going to step on it, or like my daughter, and you might have, I think you still use a SkyTrack, right? Is that what I'm still getting?
Yeah, that's right, mate. I'm still on the SkyTrack.
Yeah. So now with the SkyTrack, did you find that you pulled things left at first when you first got it, just from being afraid to hit the unit itself?
I don't think so. Yeah, I was outside when I first got it, so I had the freedom to swing, so I didn't feel that insecure. I was obviously worried about hitting the SkyTrack, but I didn't really find I was pulling it too much. Okay,
so I noticed with my daughter that she would pull, and she was like 14 or 15 at the time, and she would pull everything left. And I talked to a bunch of people that had SkyTracks, and then I would notice that, one, they don't swing as hard because of indoor swing syndrome. So that's one of the reasons that people would always ask something about the distances on the SkyTrack being off. But I always noticed that she pulled things left because she was just so afraid of hitting the box, so she couldn't really free herself up and play. So I love the idea of a ceiling mount system. So I took the plunge and went QED, and I couldn't see going up to the IXO. I couldn't see the extra $5,000 for just being able to see where you hit it on the face. That didn't seem worth it to me. So I thought the QED was a good spot for me.
So is that the main difference between the QED and the IXO? It's just that the IXO can show you where you're hitting the ball on the face?
Kind of. The dots on the ball, the IXO doesn't need dots. And I kind of thought I thought the dots were going to bother me, but it don't. One ball if I put dots on a ball, that ball will last me a full week before I got to put another ball in, before it gets too tore up. So it's not a thing that I thought it would be something I would be annoyed doing, but it's not. And as far as I know, that's the only two things, is you get the impact of where you hit it exactly on the club face. And then I think you might get you get a different camera angle because it's on the front side of you, which also puts it more in the danger zone if someone would happen to hit a really high, flop that might actually hit the unit. So I didn't like that idea either. If I did ever have someone come over, I didn't want $12,000 is a lot to have smashed by a golf ball.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, how do you find the QED compared to the SkyTrack? I'm assuming it's a lot better, but in what ways is it better?
All right, so I can honestly say, ball flight wise, nothing. Just the only difference is the delay. The lack of delay in the Uneekor and the QED is nice. But with occasionally, occasionally with the SkyTrack, you might hit one that you didn't feel that might not have been exactly right. But I get the same thing with the QED too. And it's normally when the dots have been eaten up so much that they're barely even there and I shouldn't be hitting it anyway. And it's mostly only on a 60 degree. So, it's a little bit more reliable, so you don't have missed shots like you do. But I hit a ball a half hour ago that was just a 9-iron, and it snap hooked like it was a driver because the ball was just the dots were gone. And so it's my own fault for doing it. But no, ball flight wise, I can't tell a difference, honestly.
And I'm assuming you get a bit more data with the QED compared to SkyTrack.
Yeah, so it does have the dots or the little reflectors that you can put to get some club face. You do get the swing speed, the path. You'll get the path. You'll get club face. I don't think it has angle of attack though. If it does, I haven't noticed it. And then you do get the video of the club coming through hitting the ball. So it's kind of nice I've only had 2 people other than myself and my daughter ever play in here. And one of them, he was like, I'm really hitting really bad slices. So when we pulled it up to look, he was cutting across the ball like something awful. And once you could see how bad it was, it's more noticeable so as a training tool, it's awesome for that because as you know, feel and real are 2 separate things in golf. So being able to see something and then try to feel something and see how it looks exactly the same, even though you're feeling something different, it still looks exactly the same.
It's interesting because I don't know a lot about the Uneekor stuff. It doesn't seem to be a massive launch monitor over where I am in England, in the UK. Yeah. But I was speaking to a guy in Australia a few days ago, and he's got the IXO. So it was really interesting to chat to him about it. And it's even better that you've got the QED because nobody's ever covered that launch monitor on this little series so far. So it's amazing. I just seem to be getting people with different launch monitors coming on all the time. I love it. Moving on to your actual simulator build then. I'm looking forward to asking a few questions about this because, like I said earlier, it looks fantastic. I'm highly envious of your simulator setup, I'm not going to lie. So let's just start off with your enclosure and your impact screen. It looks like it's an actual enclosure that you've got and it's not just going from wall to wall, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So when I started this little project, I wanted to take full advantage of left wall to right roll, which is about 15.5 feet or so. And so I didn't want to lose any space. I didn't want to have a 14-foot screen and have this extra space on the sides that I could have used for screen size. It's an actual enclosure, we'll call it. I'll tell you how it came about. But so the enclosure is a custom build that is, I had to get creative with this. So the actual frame is just the regular conduit and then the pole fittings that you can find, the tent fitting things. You'll see them posted everywhere. I got mine from canopies and tarps.com or tarpsandcanopies.com, one of those. And so that was like $150 for just the corner fittings. So then the EMT itself was like $16 a stick for the 10-foot. But so what I did was I built the frame, and then I had an idea of, well, I bet I can have someone sew an actual enclosure for me if I can find somebody that knows, one that has a big enough area. So I was thinking, okay, who has, sewing machines that do big things? So I was like upholstery shops, sign makers. So I started searching, and then I found there's a lake like an hour away from here. And there is an Amish family that make boat covers for storing boats in the winter. So I called, he had a phone number. I called him, and it took him like a week to get back to me. And I tried to explain a golf simulator to him over the phone, which, so anyway, so I took the poles and drove him down, and I set it up in his building. So I set him up in his building, and then I had to explain, this is what a golf simulator is. And I had to show him videos, so you stand here and you hit this, and this is where the screen goes, and I had to explain. So I just left this, the structure itself in his building, and I had to explain, let's go up and over and Velcro, and it's got to wrap around the Velcro. And I said, mainly, one of the other reasons I needed custom, too, was where that HVAC system is right above it. I needed the top to be some sort of mesh material so I could get that air through versus just bouncing right off and then, heading up in the ceiling. So I knew I was going to have to do something custom, because I was going to do one of the large enclosures from 24/7, but the sides and the top were all the thick fabric, so the air wouldn't have come through. So I needed like a custom mesh build. So I explained to the Amish guy and showed him videos and pictures, and he started sewing up, and I probably waited 3 or 4 hours for him to finish the thing. But he even built me like the foam padding that covers around the corners, and he did all of it. So all that cost me, it's 15 and a half, well, it's about 15 feet wide, and then it's just under 10 tall and right around 10 foot deep. And it's like a real thick canvas, very nice material. It's like $900.
Wow. So is that with the screen included?
No, the screen was another one.
So honestly, mate, that is probably the greatest story I've ever heard about somebody building a home golf simulator. No disrespect at all to any Amish family, but just the fact that you went to that extent, it was amazing.
He did it, and I'd like to have him work on another one for me, but he hasn't answered his phone in like 2 months, so he may be too busy, I don't know. That or he doesn't want to build it again. Yeah, and the screen itself is, so once I had the enclosure built, I called Carl's and said, this is my frame size. What size screen do I need to get maximum screen size? And I think he told me whatever space you have minus 4 inches, it might be 6 inches. It's either 4 or 6 inches to give you a gap on each side, for bungees, basically. And they hooked me up with that, and that was another $900 or $1,000. But it's a 14 and a half, give or take a little bit, by 10 tall.
So your screen is from Carl's Place, is it?
Yep.
And how are you finding that? Is it a good quality screen? I'm assuming it will be.
It is. I've had zero. I haven't had any issues with it all. I don't see any signs of wear. There's some burn marks in the screen, but you'll never be able to stop burn marks. It's not showing any kind of wear, as in I had a cheaper screen before, and you could kind of see the hitting area would kind of get worn down. You could almost see through it at one point because it was so beat up. But this has looked exactly the same for a year now. And with the screen on, you can't see anything. If you turn all the lights on and the projector off, you can see burn marks, but it's nothing that you can see with the screen or with the projector, so it doesn't bother me.
So, I love that, mate. I love your story about your enclosure and your screen. If we move on now and just ask what you are doing in terms of processing. So are you using a gaming PC? Are you using a laptop? And what graphics card do you use?
I updated my PC, but I didn't need to. The one I had before was perfectly fine, but I had a friend of mine that was building PCs, And he was like, I can build you one. And since I had all this other new stuff, I was like, all right, we'll get. So anyway, I have a desktop. I find that no matter what breaks on a desktop, you're only anywhere from $50 to $200 to fix it, versus a laptop. You might as well throw it away if something breaks in it. I mean, it ain't gonna be worth getting fixed. So I recommend anybody with a golf simulator, if they're not being mobile with it, I would go desktop all day long. It's going to be cheaper, easier to fix, and then gamers are always trying to get rid of them anyway because they always want to upgrade to the next thing. But as for the GPU, RTX 3050.
Right, okay. And how does that cope with the GS Pro?
I have not had a single issue in Ultra or anything.
That's really good, because I was wondering how that 3050 card would run GS Pro, especially with like the new updated courses coming out that need a bit more graphics power. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know very little about gaming computers and graphics cards, but I have wondered if 3050 would run it okay.
Yeah, I've been running GS Pro on Ultra. I honestly can't see. So my projector, which I'm sure you're going to get to in a second, is not 4K. So I don't see a huge difference between high, very high, and Ultra on mine at all. So I run it at Ultra just in case there's a difference, and I don't see it, but I don't need to be, I don't think. But I've never gotten the little warning, the warning, the low frame warning that you might get in the bottom left of GS Pro if you're running low. I've never seen that, so it must be okay. I have seen a stutter before in GS Pro, but I don't know. It's only when coming into the green, if you hit like a high shot into the green, I've noticed a stuttering thing, and I've heard other people talk about that too. So I don't know if that's a graphics thing or just software thing where it's like trying to do the camera thing and it's kind of getting stuck between maybe zooming in closer or coming out or kind of thing. So I don't think it's a GPU thing. I think that's a GS Pro thing, but that's it though.
Just one thing I forgot to ask you, actually, about your enclosure. How do you stop any ricochets from happening?
Well, there was one idea at first, and that was to use, on the first design of how I was going to build it, the whole back corners were going to be built out of wire, like 1/4-inch wire. So a ball couldn't really hit and ricochet off of that. I never tested it, so I don't know if it worked. Yeah. But it was an idea of how to stop that. Now, as far over as my corners are, I've never hit the side corners, ever. That's like, I mean, that's almost like, it's more than 45-degree angle for me to have to hit that. So I've never done that. The only issue I have is in the top, is if you hit a 60 just right, you'll get the right in the corner. But like I said, the Amish guy hooked me up with pads that are like about an inch or so thick, and he put Velcro on them on one side, so it's got like a Velcro flap. So it literally just Velcros in all the way around. So I do have a pad all the way around, but I've never had anything come back at me on this build. The build before, I hit a 3-wood under the net or under the screen that hit a concrete wall and came back and got me in the shin, which is why I did the bottom the way that I did it, to avoid that on this build. Yeah, that hurt.
How have you done the bottom?
So, all right. So this screen is, so when I bought the screen, it's actually 10 foot. So what's actually happening though is the enclosure itself is set down maybe 1.5 inches into the floor. So if I was to putt a ball anywhere around that enclosure, it's never going to hit a metal pipe because the pipe is actually under level of the floor. So the screen actually goes down, or go this way. The screen goes down under the pipe and then pulls back. So that screen's like 19 inches from the wall. So the screen's coming down under a pole and then being pulled under the pole. So if you can't go under the screen, it's impossible.
So this is one question that I was going to ask you. I made in my notes. It looks like your simulator and your hitting area is on like a little raised floor. Is that right? Yeah.
2 raised floors because I'm an idiot. So I built one, and then I got back looking at it and thought, oh, I should have put the sides in to do what I was talking about of recessing the pipes. So I had enough scrap laying around from where I got the material to build the platform, and all the wood is all from pallets and discount wood from Marketplace and I mean, literally, I have no more than $400 in wood for this entire room, and the floor and all this. So when I built the floor the first time, it was only like 2 inches. And then I was looking at it and I thought, I probably should have recessed those pipes so I could do what I was talking about. So I had to build another floor on top of that floor. So by being an idiot, it cost me like an extra 2 weeks. But I got to get rid of all the extra wood because I ended up with way more wood than I really needed, but I got to use it.
That's a nice little tip, that, mate. I quite like it.
Yeah, you could do the same thing too with just foam, like foam tile, like you got like foam standing tiles, like the fatigue mats. You could do that too, and just only go. I mean, you really only got to go up as high as the pole. I'm higher. I'm lower. I mean, I got like that much extra, which is like almost 2.5 inches. But a normal person with a normal sized pole would probably only need to go 1 inch and be fine.
Can I ask you about your room in general? So whereabouts is your room in relation to your house, and what are the dimensions of your room as a whole?
I work from home. So 2 to 3 years ago when I was like, all right, I got to build something bigger because I had a different building here before behind my house. So I'm in the middle of I have about 9 acres here. So we built the house and like 6 years ago or so. So we worked out of another building for a couple years. And then when it came time to, all right, let's build a bigger building. At that time, my simulator was in the basement. And I had original plans to build a building that was like 40 by 70 or something like that. So 40 feet by 70 feet. And my wife, who is amazing, by the way, who I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for her, supporting me and telling me to go get it. She tried to get me to buy a Uneekor like 3 years ago. And I was like, I can't. I'm not spending that much. And she's like, just do it. And I was like, no. But so all this is thanks to her. But so when I was going to build this building, she would have to listen to me hit golf balls in the basement right under the bedroom. So her idea was, why don't you make that building bigger and move all that out there so I don't have to listen to it? So I said, okay. So I ended up building a 40 by 90 foot building behind my house. And then the end of the building, which is about 16 feet wide by 32 feet deep, I built basically, I cornered off a room, and that's what this room is. So on the other side of this is basically like 2 big parking bays, and then my work area is on the other side of all that.
Right, I'm going to ask you, Derrik, about your little bar area, because not only am I envious of your golf simulator, I'm envious of the fact that you've got space to have an amazing bar area, some stools behind it. Like, that's cool. How many people do you reckon you could fit in your golf simulator room if you wanted to? Well,
there's 3 seats at the bar, and you could easily fit 3 more over here and then still have 1 golfing. So 7 could be in here probably, but I don't know 7 people, so that'll never happen.
But the fact that you've had the opportunity to do that, I'm highly envious of it, mate. I also noticed your club rack, and I can see it behind you there. And I'm wondering, have you made them yourself, or are they pre-bought?
Yes, of course. So that is pallets and scrap pieces of wood. And then what's holding it in is the bottom I drilled in about 1/4 inch or so, just to kind of give it a spot for the grip to go. And the top is just the plastic pull cue holders from, like, anybody that's ever been in a bar and been near a billiard table. They see the pull cue racks on the wall. So if you put the pull cue holder in the right spot on the shaft, it works. If too high, it'll come out. Too low, it might break the thing. But right in the middle, about 18 inches up from the bottom of the grip, seems to be about right. So that cost me $20, and that's, I don't even know, like 8 feet wide or so.
Yeah, I love that. I have looked into that myself, and obviously some people pre-buy like fishing rod holders, and I've looked at the pool cue holders as well. I've just never got around to it, but now that you've told me how to do it, I might just do that myself in my room.
The only recommendation I would have that I could have done different, I could have pulled it away from the wall a little bit, because my wall is pretty durable, but the back of the bottom of the hosel is kind of like right against the edge. So in 20 years, if I didn't do anything, I'm willing to bet there's going to be wear marks on the drywall where those clubs were. But
can I ask you about your hitting mat? It looks a bit unique because it's black. But yeah, can you just tell everybody whereabouts you got that from? Does it have a brand?
It's from All Turf Mats. I think they're somewhere in Georgia. But they had a clearance section, and they have a mat called, it's something like Golf Simulator or something mat, but it's basically black for the camera systems so they can pick up the ball better, I guess is the theory on that. And it was in the clearance section, and I thought it was kind of cool because it was black, and I've never seen one. And I think it was like 700 maybe, but it's 5 by 12.
Yeah, it's a big one. I've noticed it's very, very wide, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I put a new insert in it last week. Well, longer than that now, I guess. It's probably been a month, but it feels like last week. So I had to finally replace the inside of it where I was wearing it out.
What kind of insert do you use?
You know the designer on GS Pro, is it Run Pud Run, something like that? Yeah, he sells inserts, and it's like EZT Hybrid is the name of it, something like that. So you can contact him for an insert.
Right, okay.
Pretty awesome, and he'll send you just a. I had to ask for a special size because mine's 2 feet by 2 feet square, because the worn pattern that I had was bigger than what a normal person should have had because I was throwing balls and hitting them everywhere. But a normal person would only need like a foot by 18 inches or so, and he sells those. They're like $40 or something like that, maybe.
I've also noticed it looks like you have some sort of put-in turf just beyond your hitting mat, because it looks different to the rest of your turf. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, that is a cheap putting turf from Amazon. That was like $80, I want to say, including shipping. I mean, it's a 5 by 8, so I didn't cut any of it when I got it. I was just wanting something that, for putting, I didn't want to go from like the mat to like my 1.5-inch thick turf, because that just seemed weird, and it takes some of the realism out of it. So by having that 5-foot area, it kind of gives me I get to see the ball roll, and it doesn't do anything too crazy. So it kind of makes that part a little more realistic.
Yeah, and it helps when you're judging your putts on GS Pro or TGC, doesn't it? I've found that. Because I've used just one of the practice putting mats that roll up. I asked my missus to buy me one of those as a Christmas present last year, just so that I could purposely cut out my artificial turf, and I've got a strip there of 7 feet up until my hitting screen that I can actually judge my putts a little bit better. Sticking with the grass theme, obviously you've got some longer artificial turf that goes around your hitting area. Where did you get that from?
I bought that 3 years before I used it. So I've had that for 3 years. I've been stepping over it in my garage for 3 years, and I ended up using it last year. So it just came from Menards, which is like a Lowe's, Home Depot type thing. They keep it as a stock item there during the summer for people that want to have little landscaping areas with artificial turf. And I want to say it was 15. No, it wasn't. It was 12 feet wide by like 30 some feet was what I got. But I only ended up using like half of that for this. So that thick stuff only cost me about $200, $250 maybe, something like that. It's pretty cheap, means it's like a stock type material they keep there. I didn't have a special order or nothing.
And I've just thought, how is everything, is everything stuck down to that platform, or can you just peel it up whenever you want? Yeah. How have you done it? Yeah,
so the platform itself is only attached to the walls. I don't like drilling holes in concrete because concrete's expensive, and putting a hole in it just doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. So it's kind of like a floating platform, but it is attached to the outside walls. So, and then the turf itself is actually just stapled in every whatever I felt like doing. I mean, I don't know what kind of madness of staples I have in this thing, but there are staples all over it.
I've heard, I was talking to Phil actually on one of the previous episodes, and he just blasts a staple gun on everything in his simulator room. Yep. And I think I need to invest in one because it seems quite handy.
It is, yeah. It's all the trim that's been put up in here was all with an air nailer. It makes life easy. Yeah.
I'm going to come to this and I'm going to ask you about it, even though you're a bit reluctant. But I noticed that you are using a simulator control box in your setup. Can you please tell me where you got that from?
Yeah, so that's a Roxor control box, which I built those.
So Derrik, I found out earlier, is the owner of Roxor Golf, who sells control boxes. Is that all you sell, or do you sell other things golf simulator related?
No. So the control boxes, I have a voice control software. There's a free swing recording software that I started just giving away not too long ago. I built it to kind of go a certain direction with it, and I never got to use it, so I just gave it away. So it just does automatic swing recording and then plays it back for you automatically, and that's a free thing I'm just giving out. But mainly, yeah, some of the other stuff like the Wiz Eye. I mean, I sell the Wiz Eye because the guy that came out with it, he contacted me or I contacted him, or anyway, we've talked for a year or so. But anyway, so I sell those and Skytrax, but mainly just the boxes is all I take really credit for. Everything else is basically somebody else's, and I'm just a licensed reseller.
What is the benefit of having a simulator control box for those people who aren't sure what they actually are? Because I have one, and I don't necessarily need it because my simulator space is very small. So can you just tell us why it would be beneficial for some people to own a control box? Yeah.
So it's either 2 reasons or 3 reasons I had. I can't remember, but it's well, one is basically so you're not walking back and forth to the computer, between every single shot. 2 would be speed, because you're not walking, you're playing faster. And then, the third, I guess there's 4 reasons, but the third would be if you have somebody come over to play. I had a brother-in-law of an uncle of mine come and play once, years ago. And what ended up happening was I had to stand at the keyboard and just do whatever he told me to do. And so that wasn't no fun for me. So I was like aiming left for him, and then he'd be like, give me a mulligan. And then I'd do that. So the box is to alleviate that. So you just say, read the box, push those buttons, and leave me alone.
Well, yeah, like I've tried, I have a simulator control box, and my keyboard is literally within an arm's reach of where I'm playing golf from. Right. So, like I said, I don't particularly need it, but I have found that when I have used it, it's very useful. It's very, very handy. And if I did have a much larger sim room like yourself, where my computer is further away from where I'm hitting, and if I've got friends round or whatever, it'd be so beneficial to have. So yeah, definitely recommend getting a sim control box if you have a large space in your simulator.
Yep, you can. There's multiple people that make them. You can find the one that you want. No one has to come to me.
You're very humble, mate.
I know I make the best one, but that's my opinion. Some people might disagree.
There we go. Right, Derrik, if we can move on then to your projector. Do you know what projector you have? Is it 1080p? Is it 4K? Can you explain it to everybody?
So it's a BenQ MW632ST. I'm pretty sure that's right. It's not a 4K. I've never seen a 4K projector, so I don't know what I'm missing. So as long as I don't ever bring a 4K in here and see one in person, I'll never know. So I'm happy with what I got now. Mainly the reason I got that one was I had to figure out where the projector was going. So with the size of the screen that I was looking for, which was roughly 14 and a half feet or so wide, I had to figure out, what I was doing with projector. Because when I built all this, I didn't just plan it all out and then follow my plan. It was like I would do something and then be like, okay, now I have this problem. How am I fixing that? And then I would do that. And then I just kept doing that over and over again. But when I got to the projector, I needed something that was going to be about right above the ball. I figured that's the best spot for the projector to be, or even back a little bit too. But I knew that one day I may want a Uneekor. So I found out what a Uneekor had to be mounted at, which is like 4 feet back, I want to say. So by my research on Projector Central, if anybody's looking for a Projector Central, and that's the best way to figure it out of what's going to fit for you. Because if someone says, this is a short throw, well, a short throw could be anywhere from, I've seen them, be 6 foot to still like 16 feet away, and they're still called a short throw. So that doesn't do you any good if someone says, just get a short throw. They're all a little bit different. So that's why I went with the BenQ, because it fit my space that I needed according to Projector Central, and the cost was like $5.99 as opposed to like 4Ks. I don't even know what those are because I'm not looking at them because I think they're like $4,000 or something, and that ain't happening.
Yeah, $599 seems like a reasonable price for your projector.
And I tell people a lot of times you can get a used projector and then just replace the bulb. Mostly the only thing that ever goes wrong with the projector is the bulb anyway. So a new bulb's only like $40-$50. So you'll have somebody that has a projector that, you know, it might be around on the local Facebook marketplace where it might be a $600 projector they're selling for $200 because the bulb's no good. Well, bulb's $40, so, or 40 to 60, I guess it kind of depends on the age, but under 100 for most of them. So you can be way under budget on a projector just by switching out a bulb, and that don't take 5 minutes.
That's an amazing piece of advice right there. Just go for a second-hand projector, and then, like say, usually it's probably going to be the bulb that goes, if anything, and then you're still saving yourself a shed loads of money if you just have to buy a bulb. So yeah, great piece of advice. Okay, sticking with the technology theme, Derrik, I've noticed you have not only your impact screen, but you seem to have 3 other screens on your side wall. Can you explain why you have 3 more?
One reason was I thought it'd look cool. And 2, one's just a regular monitor, but when it comes to computer monitors, these are all TVs. One, because if I don't want it to be a monitor one day, I can make it a TV by moving it. And, you know, if you buy a computer monitor, they cost as much as the TV, and it's just a monitor. So just buy a used TV from the marketplace. Every one of these, except for that one. That one I got I got a really good deal. I think someone gave me like a gift card or something from like a Sam's Club or Walmart or something, and I had like $100 to get off of something, so I had to find something. So I bought a TV with it. But the other 2 are just from the marketplace. So there was like maybe $40 for that one and 120 maybe for that one or 100 for that one. So they're just TVs.
And what do you use them for? Do you put club data on one and things?
Yeah, so I have my GPU has 3 or 4, I think it has 4 ports where I could use 4 monitors. But so one's obviously the projector. 2 is the monitor itself, and that's kind of, I don't really put much on that one, but the one that's on the other side, I have 2 cameras set up in here. So I'll have the swing from the Uneekor software that comes free with it. If they will try to, I mean, they sell a higher end software too and cameras for the swing stuff, but the one that comes with the QED, you can just use regular webcams with or any kind of camera. So I have 2 cameras set up here where I can watch my disgusting swing fall apart.
Yeah, that's amazing. I forgot to ask you about any sort of camera setup that you might have to look at your swing, so that's interesting. That I'm assuming that you use your golf sim a lot for practice as well as playing courses, do you?
There's some days where I think I figured this stupid game out, and I walk out of here and I'm happy, and then the next day I look like I've never swung a golf club before. And my wife always jokes with me all the time because I'll walk in and say, I got to figure it out today. And she'll roll her eyes and shake her head and sure, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And sure enough, I'm back to hitting bad shots. So yeah, I'd say I'm 75% practice and 25% sim play. But I did just start the SGT because of you. I was actually watching some of your SGT stuff. And then I thought, maybe I want to do that to put a little bit more pressure on my swing because it's really easy to play golf when you got a mulligan button to just push anytime you want. So it's a little harder when it matters. So I learned that right away in the SGT.
It's an interesting dynamic when you join the simulator golf tour, isn't it? I definitely found out that all of a sudden the pressure was on, and it's a completely different experience to just playing a casual practice round on a course.
It's a lot more realistic because it's what really happens to me out on the golf course. If I don't play real golf courses anymore. I've only played maybe 2 rounds in 2 years anymore in the outside world. So I would, like, when I get to the course, when it all matters more, like, I feel like I tense up a lot, and that's going to shorten all my swing and shorten everything because it matters, because I have to go chase that ball after I hit it. But inside here, it doesn't matter unless I'm doing the SGT. And that's when I start to feel that or like, that last thought before you swing of please don't go left and that kind of thing. When before I never really cared because I just hit a mulligan or, just whatever. It didn't matter. But the SGT definitely puts that pressure on you. So, yeah, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, I can comprehend it, but I can't see myself playing many rounds on my sim where I'm just having a casual round anymore, because if I've got rounds to play on Simulator Golf Tour, I'm going to go and play them first, I think. So you said that you don't play golf outdoors very much. So when you're playing on the sim, what kind of scores do you like to shoot?
Well, all right, so if I'm just goofing around golfing and just, playing around just to play, it's rare that I play a full 18 holes where, like, I don't take a mulligan just because I didn't hit the shot that I wanted to hit. So until the SGT, I never really just played hole number 1 to hole number 18 to see what I would get. I had some really good, at one point on the SGT, I was 6 under after like 12 holes. And then I ended up shooting 7 over. So figure that out.
Yeah, I've done that myself.
Yeah. So, normally in the outside world, just 3 or 4 over for 9 holes is about where I'm at. Occasionally I'll have the ability to do a little bit better, but then I'll have the ability to do a little worse.
So can I ask you, whereabouts did you get most of your inspiration from for your sim room? Because as sim golfers, we all have to start somewhere. And the Facebook groups were massive for me, looking at other people's setups, looking at the pictures. Where did you get most of your inspiration from?
Yeah, I would see people post in groups and say, hey, I'm getting ready to start a build. Let me see your build so I get ideas. And then you would have people that was just, be hundreds of pictures of different things. And you would see some common themes, like some of them was in like a basement, or you'd see some of them where they were in like a garage bay, and then some of them would be like their own room of a house, whatever it would be. And I kind of looked at all those and saw, bits and pieces of each that I liked, and the ones that kind of fit the area of the space that I was going to have. I could kind of pulled from those a little bit to see, like with the reason why my floor is raised to block the pipes, and as well as to have the image shoot all the way down to the grass of the turf, to make it look neater too, but for the purpose of, not having the bounce back. That was just from somebody's picture that I saw. And then I think I might have asked and said, how did you do that? And then they explained, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I've got you to thank, mate, in a massive way, because you actually started some of the Facebook groups that I joined, and I got all my inspiration from, and I've got loads and loads of tips from. So you've started the TGC 2019 Facebook group. You are Bruce McDuffer, aren't you?
I am the Bruce. You caught me. Yeah, I'm Bruce McDuffer.
Like I said to you earlier, it was so nice to actually speak to Bruce McDuffer, because you were like this ambiguous figure that didn't know who he really was. And now that I know you, and now that I've seen you set up, and honestly, mate, just thank you for creating those groups, because I'm sure it's not just me that's got benefit from those groups, because so many sim golfers are part of it. We're all sharing our setups, we're all sharing our tips and tricks. So great idea starting that group.
And problems, like that was one of the, I had a fellow yesterday I was helping out with something. He called me, and we were seeing an error on something I've never seen before. So I was able to put it in the group, and then, you're going to get responses in groups on the Facebook groups way faster than you are if you try to get a hold of, Skytrack or Uneekor or whatever. They're quick. I'm not going to say they're not, but you're going to have real life scenario people that's had that issue, and they can say, oh, you just need to do this, and then you're good. And that only takes 15 minutes sometimes at the most. So, yeah, the groups are still helpful for me. I still ask for things, and
Yeah, mate, honestly, it's amazing. The amount of questions that I've asked in there in the past. I've even done some shameless self-promotion of my videos in the past on your groups. So thank you for allowing me to do that, mate.
Have at
it. Just finding out tips, just posting problems, troubleshooting, all that sort of stuff. Like you say, you can get a response within a matter of minutes on those Facebook groups. And the community that you've built right there is just an amazing thing, I think.
The last guy that you did an interview with, I don't know if it was the last one or not, but where he had cut out the ceiling for the part of the club in case he wanted to swing. That actually, there was a guy I was talking to that was going to raise his entire ceiling, and I had seen someone post something like that in the group, and I was like, no, just take off the part you're going to swing at. Don't do the whole room if you don't have to. So yeah, it's a great way to learn those type of tricks, the things that just people don't think of that someone else has already did all the thinking for you.
Right, Derek. This is a new question that I'm just going to fire at you because I only thought of it in the last interview that I did. Now, you've come up with countless amount of tips in this video so far already, but if you could give just one piece of advice to someone starting out on their golf simulator journey, what piece of advice would you give them? Well,
I guess I would have two answers. One, it's if you're just starting and you don't really know if it's something you'll use. Like if you're on the fence, like if, you might have played one at a friend's house and you thought, I want this. I would definitely recommend not building all of this to start with, unless you're full in on golf, because golf it's a special sport that it'll get to you. So if it's just something starting off, I would say I would definitely start with the bare minimum of just a net in the R10 or SkyTrack with a net, and just kind of start from there, and then kind of work your way up depending on how permanent you're kind of set up that you're wanting. When I built the house, one of my only demands that I had of the entire house, I didn't care about anything else, was I wanted the basement tall enough to swing a golf club in. But I didn't think about the noise, so I left. That part didn't work out. But the basement is tall enough to swing a golf club in now. But so just start where you're comfortable starting. If you've been playing forever and you're like, this is something I really want to do, you can do it cheap, because this is done. I mean, I think the last guy you did an interview, I think he was under $1,000, wasn't he, for all of his, the way that he did it.
Start from the ground up, don't you? And the simulator, the nice thing, but also the annoying thing about a golf simulator is that you can always improve it, it seems. And even when you've got a setup that is as amazing as yours, there's probably still parts of it that you think, oh, I could tweak that, I could make that better. So by starting from the ground up, by maybe with an R10 and a net, or a SkyTrack and a net, you can then gradually improve it and make it into what you ultimately want.
Yeah, like this whole back piece where I have room for people to sit, not necessary. Ain't nobody sitting there. I had to do something with it, so that's what if one day, if I make a friend, one of these days, if I ever have a friend, maybe they'll come and play, and they'll have a place to sit. But until that day, that's the other thing I would recommend. If you're going to build a golf simulator, build it for whoever it is you're building it for. If it's for you, build it for you. If you got if you're thinking, don't do your whole setup for just in case somebody left-handed shows up, and you spent all this extra money because you wanted to put things here just in case somebody left-handed came up, and it's got to be wide enough so you have both sides. I wouldn't do that. There's not a single thing in here I built for somebody else. So it's the way that I wanted it, not the way that if somebody shows up left-handed, yeah, they'll be able to swing. But not because I chose for them to be able to. I didn't spend the extra money for that. It was just kind of worked out that way. But my old setup, a left-handed person would have never been able to swing in that. So,
right, mate. So, starting to wrap it up, then you can happily give us a ballpark figure if you want, and you don't have to answer this either if you don't want. But how much would you say you've spent in total on your home golf simulator setup?
So, since you kind of gave me a rundown that this question might come, last night I pulled out a Google spreadsheet and went through, and I kind of had to break it up 3 different ways. So I have a full total of what everything cost me, but that's including the room. So like I had to actually build the room and, you know, hang the drywall and all that. But some people that wouldn't be that expense wouldn't apply to them. So if I had to say all of it, including the room and everything that's inside of it, it's under $16,000. Now but remember, 7 of that is just the Uneekor. And that price also includes the HVAC system. So that's my heating and cooling too that's in there. So.
And do you have a favourite thing inside your golf sim? If you could choose one thing that's your favourite, what would you go for?
Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I was proud of the idea when I came up with it. So for storage of clubs, I had to think, you know, I could build a rack, or what could I do? So I just called a local golf shop and just said, you guys have any old stands that you want to get rid of? Where, like, if they sold, you know, TaylorMade clubs or whatever it was, TaylorMade would send them this display stand. So I got a stand for like $30 over here that holds basically 5 sets of clubs, but it's like the same kind you would see at a store, and a $4 can of spray paint, and it looks cool, but so it cost me $35 or so for this stand over here. So I mean, that's that and the trim. All this trim is all literally broken off from pallets. I don't know if you plan on cutting in pictures of the pictures that I sent you, but you can see where I cut up pallets and power washed them and stained them just to get all this trim. So literally all the trim in here was like $12.
So I've asked you what your favourite thing is in your simulator. Is there any one item or piece of your simulator that you would improve?
The one thing that I could say is not going to be a good answer, but it bothers me because I know it's there. It's not even like simulator related more than it is room related, but the ceiling in here is actually off by 1/4 of an inch. And the way it's like, and I know it, no one would ever see this, but it drives me nuts because I can see it. And no one else can, but that drives me insane. But the cost to fix that would be so much that it ain't happening. So that's the one thing. But as simulator-wise, I'm happy with Projector. I don't see anything wrong with the Uneekor's great. I don't think I would want anything else just because I think camera systems for the Sims are way better than the Doppler, just from the testing that I've done and the way my room's set up. If you're probably cutting in pictures, you'll see I had to put ceiling fans in because it is 14 foot tall. So to get this air moving in here, there's ceiling fans, there's the HVAC system. So this is like a Doppler's worst nightmare in here. So I have to go something camera related. And, it took me 9 months, like I said, to do all this. So now I had plenty of time to do something right if I wanted it. I can't think of anything that.
Yeah, so just the ceiling being off, like that's what I found by doing DIY stuff, not just in my simulator room, but just like around the house as well. It's little tiny things that nobody would notice if they came into your room or your house, whatever. But you know they're there, and it annoys you, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's with the ceiling, so the walls are all drywall, which was fine. So I had to rent like a scaffolding to do all the drywall. And the ceiling, I don't know if you've ever hung drywall, but hanging on the ceiling sucks because drywall is pretty heavy. So to get it 14 feet in the air, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I did like a tongue and groove. So it just, each one clamps into the next all the way down. But at any point in time during that 32 feet, if you get a little crooked, after 32 feet, you're going to see that. And it's like, it's there. I know it's there. I've measured it. I see it. No one else does, but it drives me insane. Luckily, the screen and all that kind of blocks it. So it's actually like on that side. So you don't see it as much, but I bet I have an hour of my life looking at that ceiling and just shaking my head thinking, I got to get over it. I got to get over it.
Right, Derrik, I can see in the background that you've got GS Pro loaded up. And we have spoken about the Simulator Golf Tour, which is based on GS Pro. So I'm assuming at this moment in time, GS Pro is your simulator software of choice. But I'm also assuming that you've been a fan of TGC 2019 in the past as well.
Yeah, so I started with TGC back before it was 2019. So, whatever it was called, just the golf club then, I guess. So I had that. So that was been like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Might have been 4 years ago by now. And so I moved up to TGC. I tried E6, sampled and demoed, and I was never a fan of E6. It never did anything for me. But with TGC, the first thing I did once I found out you could build courses was I built every course around me that I ever play. So every course that's in this, 4 or 5 counties, I built on there for me to play, and I play those the most. But when GS Pro came out, I remember calling a friend of mine and saying, he's living in another state, but I called him and I said, hey, I tried GS Pro. And he's like, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know. It's all right, I guess. And now looking back, I don't know what the hell I was talking about, because it's amazing. So I don't know I think I was just still stuck to TGC where I was like, but now it's probably 90% GS Pro and 10% TGC. And what I've learned too, which is the advice I'd give somebody, is GS Pro is going to overtake TGC eventually, because TGC is not doing anything. As I'm sure, as you know, there's not been an update in like 3 years. So it has that first bounce glitch. And I'm sure you know the first bounce glitch. If you're a good golfer, you won't see the first bounce glitch that much. So like, I never had to deal with it. I heard people complaining about it, but to me, I hit the ball decent about every time. I don't, shank them very often. And so I never really had to see it that much. But as soon as I had someone come over, I had my nephew come over, and we were working on his swing, and balls were going everywhere. And so we were playing TGC, and every shot that he hit was that first glitch bounce thing. And it was almost embarrassing for me as the sim owner to be like, I mean, the first one's no big deal. But when they see it over and over, like, wait a minute, that's not how physics works. That's not how that should happen. So that's one of the things I was like, you know what, GS Pros, they got it figured out. I mean, there's a couple little things that I guess people could, they could do to improve it. But I mean, it's for sim play, it's by far the best sim software. TGC's fun, like for the game or the courses that are like the ones that are around me that I've already built. So those are fun for me. But there's also the wedge game or the wedge courses. There's there's good courses on there, and there's so-so courses. And once you find the ones you like, it's fun. But I would never bring anybody into my simulator room ever again and not start them with GS Pro, just in case. I wouldn't want to give them that bad taste of what TGC does with the glitch if they aren't the best golfer. I don't want them to see that, because it really was embarrassing for me.
I've got a couple of points to make on what you've just said there. So that first bounce glitch on TGC, like you said, I haven't seen it very often, probably because we're relatively decent golfers, we hit relatively good golf shots. But yeah, when you said about your nephew coming over and then he's obviously working on a few things and you saw it most shots, I would be embarrassed as well, because I would be you're the sim owner and you want them to have a great experience on your golf simulator. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from in that respect.
Yeah, and that was only like a month ago or 2 months ago that even happened. That was the one of the 3 or 4 times I've ever had anybody here. And so I got out of that real quick, and I was like, no, let's go to GS Pro, because I mean, it was neat for him to be able to play his home course up by the where he lives. So he got to see that, but I think he's what, 13 or 14. And I mean, I had him doing all kinds of crazy stuff with his swing. So there was balls going every direction. But yeah, I think you noticed that when you aren't hitting good golf shots is when that glitch comes out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the other thing that you'd said was about like your first impressions of GS Pro were a bit like, Now, I was exactly the same, because I don't know what it is that the golf club... Yeah, I don't know what it is that the golf club does to you, but I loved it. Like, I haven't got really many bad words at all to say about TGC 2019 because I've got it, I love it, it's amazing, and I love the console game. I used to play that, and I think that was the cool thing for me. I was now actually hitting golf balls and playing that console game that I'd played for a few years. And it was cool. Yep. And then when I went over to GS Pro, it wasn't the same. And I was a bit underwhelmed by it all. For whatever reason, I don't know. But then what I did, like you've happened to do as well, is each time you load up your golf sim, you're loading up GS Pro and not TGC. And I can't really explain why that is, but it's just the way that it is.
I mean, I don't know if it's just the camera dynamics of TGC. Like, it feels like, the cameras move, like, sometimes, like, I don't know if it's that part. My one complaint I can say about GS Pro is I feel like the balls, every ball you hit travels the same speed on the screen. Like a driver, the ball moves just as fast as if you hit like a 7. I mean, the distance is right, but I'd like to see that driver. It doesn't feel like it's going off the tee at 150 some miles an hour. That's my only complaint I can say about GS Pro. I mean, everything else is, I mean, you don't have to be so rough in the rough. It'd be nice to have a little bit of that taken off. But it's
yeah, that's a good point. I haven't actually noticed that on GS Pro, but now that you've told me, I'm definitely going to see it. Like the difference between hitting a 6-iron for me or a hybrid or a wedge. Okay, mate. So just one final question for you, because I know that you're not into football because you've already told me that before we started filming. So I'm not going to ask you who your favourite footballer is. So do you have a favourite golfer?
Favorite golfer? I would have to say it's a tie. And one of them is a good warranted answer. The other one might be just based off of all stories. But I would have to go with Hogan and Tiger. Hogan, I've never seen Hogan like play, but from what you hear and like the little clips that you see, it's like he had this game figured out. And I started playing golf in the mid-'90s, which is right when Tiger was taking off. So I remember watching him play Augusta as a kid and just seeing him. I think he won that year for like 12 or 15 strokes, whatever it was. And just thinking this was different. And I remember when he was gone for a while, and my wife never really watched golf at all during that little period. So she would turn on TV and we would watch a little bit of golf, and she would see good golfers. But then when Tiger came back and like the first match that she watched with him, she got to see all the Tiger stuff that like nobody else does. Like people can hit it 3 feet to the pin, but Tiger hits it 1 foot from the pin.
Right, Derek. I'm going to wrap it up here, but before I do, I just want to say a massive thank you. You've provided a ridiculous amount of insight into a variety of golf simulator topics there tonight. Now, these interviews only usually last about 40 minutes or so, but we're 1 hour and 25 minutes nearly into this. And it's just been an amazing... No, mate, honestly, the amount of insight that you've provided for everybody, I feel is going to be so valuable. So thank you so much for that. Now, if you do want to go into any more detail about Derrek's home simulator setup, then I'm going to post a link to an extremely in-depth explanation of how he built everything in his home golf simulator. And it's is it over on your Roxor Golf YouTube channel, that, Derek?
Yeah, it's on there, but you can put my direct email too down there. I can give you that too, and they can contact me that way, or if they have any questions or anything. My cell phone number's on the website, so if they want to text me, they can text me, but that's literally my cell phone number on there.
I'll put the link to the video in the description. I'll put a link to the Roxor Golf website in the description, and I'll also put your email address in there as well for anybody who wants to get in contact, which I'm sure they will, because you've got endless amounts of information and advice there for everybody. So once again, thank you very much for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon, mate.
Sounds good. If anybody has any questions, I'm normally sitting at a desk with a soldering gun in my hand doing nothing. So I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about anything besides, just staring at little boards and buttons. So I appreciate somebody call me.
Amazing, mate. Thank you very much. If you've gained some valuable insight from this episode of Show Us Your Golf Simulator, then please hit that like button down below. For more amazing tips and advice, then don't forget to subscribe to the Handicap Golf channel and check out this video on the screen right now.